What I do want to talk about, though, because we really, I mean, all of this is really related to this cultural revolution. And what people don't understand is that, as we talked about in the monologue, Ericka, the Hamas war against Israel is against really not just Israel, but Judeo-Christian values. The Black Lives Matter war here on traditional values is against Judeo-Christian values. The transgender LGBTQ XYZ, whatever letters you put in there, is against traditional values, which are Judeo-Christian values. The fact that you now have reporters, and by the way, how do you pronounce your name? Is it Prisbilla? I mean, I'm horrible with pronouncing names, but so you actually have reporters now, and how you become a reporter and you just don't even understand the Constitution or foundational documents, which I guess since they don't teach them in school.
They don't care.
But
they don't care.
You mean facts don't matter?
No. Feelings don't care about your facts. Robert, why are you so silly? Look at what a silly goose you are. Okay, let's see. Okay, I think we got Bruce's mic working.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, ladies and gentlemen.
You know what? I set up 20 minutes ahead of time. I tested to make sure everything was working. And then when I finally realized I was not in your waiting room yet, it all stopped working.
Isn't that life?
You.
That's like a metaphor for life. But just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. I'm sorry.
I broke out all my fancy equipment for you. I got my fancy microphone. I got my headphones.
You're so awesome, Bruce.
I may be shouting. I have no idea.
So, Bruce, Dr. Bruce, let me tee this up. This is your sixth book, correct?
This is the sixth, yeah.
Sixth book, and the book is American Spirit or Great Awakening?
Yes, and it is.
And the principle and the argument in the book, we were talking about the Cultural Revolution. We're talking about the battle of religions in this country, and what we think is that the Hamas war against Israel is really not only against Israel, but Judeo-Christian values there. Black Lives Matter, the Cultural Revolution here is against Judeo-Christian values here. Take us from there into your book. Tell us what it's about.
Sure. Okay. So the book really has a three-pronged argument. The first one is that America is suffering from a deep spiritual crisis. Number two is wokeism is a brilliant new religion that was devised to meet the spiritual needs of America's most spiritually starved people, namely our elite. And the third is that if we don't want to collapse into a completely woke country, we're going to have to reconnect with America's own spiritual roots and re-inject traditional faith into civic life. So that's the argument in a nutshell.
All right. Okay. So give me some examples. I mean, I agree with you. We've had these conversations, on the show, not nearly as scholarly as yours, but in what walks of life are you seeing this in this country? Tie it into, because my argument would be that in the cultural battle, we've already lost the cultural battle. Right? I mean, name an institution that hasn't been either co-opted or corrupted.
That's a great question.
I agree with you. That was actually my previous book where I talked about the corruption of higher education in America, which is a problem I'm currently working to fix and address. But basically, I mean, as I've written, every major institution in American life has collapsed. I don't think there's a single one that could point with pride to its 21st century performance.
And let's itemize those for the listeners so they get an idea of what we're talking about by institutions.
Sure. Academia, university system, K-12 education, the media, government, major industries, entertainment, Wall Street. Have I left anybody out?
Not that I can think of, Ericka.
The military?
That's getting there.
Does that count?
So,
they are trying to use they're trying to use LGBTQ advertising to recruit for the Navy. I mean, that'll tell you something.
So it's actually interesting with that one was there was a technique, and I tried writing about this. Nobody was listening. If you ever wondered what the defund the police movement was about, it was really about, and this is a trick that you see used in a lot of countries that are sliding into authoritarianism, is that the movement of the institutions to new regimes happens slowly and unevenly. So there are always some that are lagging. Now, as the left seized control of more and more of our institutions, the last one standing was basically policing and the military. So what do? How do you turn over these institutions without upsetting people? The answer is you make it uncomfortable for good people to stay there.
Yeah.
Then you create an opening and you go hire all your own people. So it was clear to me from the beginning when they first started with the defund the police that the goal was to create massive vacancies in police forces. Then when people started screaming for need, they could go hire people they like better. And that was how they would take those over. You saw that the guy who used that very effectively was Erdogan in Turkey, who came in, and the two institutions he didn't control were the judiciary and the military. And he moved slowly, but he basically pushed all of the top generals and all of the top judges to retire so he could bring in his own people.
Well, how do you control a country? You know, all the people in charge of enforcing the law and law enforcement, if you can corrupt them, then you've got everything. I feel like that is like ultimate power.
Well, and that's what we're seeing in this country. You know, it's people have this idea that there's a line from Tolstoy that all happy families are the same, all unhappy families are unhappy in their own way. The same is true with societies. Healthy societies may look a lot alike, but every unhealthy and dying society will die in its own way. So you look at something like Nazi Germany, and what you saw was a degenerate form of Germany. You look at the Soviet Union, it was a degenerate form of Russia. The degenerate form of the United States is not going to look like either of those. It's going to be a degenerate American. And how do we do it? Well, you know, you think about something like Nazi Germany. They came in, they put in place Nuremberg laws. Okay? They had laws that discriminated against the Jews. We used to have laws discriminated by race. We got rid of them. We're not bringing them back. So what are we going to do? We're going to put in laws that apply to everybody. Then we're going to discriminate in how we apply them.
I
Say that again.
Yeah,
Say that
the
again.
last part.
Sure. There's a term that gets tossed around a lot called prosecutorial discretion.
Oh God, yeah.
Prosecutor gets to decide who they're going to enforce it
Right.
against.
And that's what they're using. Like all these
Right.
crazy left DAs are saying, oh, we don't have to prosecute things.
But that's the point. You see, shoplifting is illegal.
Right.
It's illegal if you're black, if you're white, if you're Latino, if you're Asian, if you're Jewish, if you're Christian, if you're an atheist, if you're a citizen, if you're an illegal immigrant. Shoplifting is illegal. There are too many shoplifters out there. I can't prosecute against all of them. So I'll just pick the ones against whom I want to prosecute. Now you tell me there's a pattern to whom I'm picking? Well, maybe, maybe not. Surely you're not going to say that these people should go free. Right? This is how things degenerate in America. Okay? And you actually saw this. The most amazing thing. The most amazing statement came from Governor of New York State, Kathy Hochul, after you had this outrageous judgment against Donald Trump.
Right.
And you had all these articles saying this is going to destabilize business in New York. And what did Hochul say? She said,
Oh, no. It's
She
only
said,
Trump. It's only
yeah,
Trump.
That's exactly what she said. She said, you don't have to worry about that because you don't behave like Trump. Of course, when it came to law enforcement,
Of course, everybody who's a real estate person does do the same thing that they're accusing Donald Trump of. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No, but that's exactly the point. See, now there's this precedent, and they can go after everybody. And again, when you've got a regime sliding into authoritarianism, it's important to take out a few rogue oligarchs. So Trump.
Yeah, you make an example of them.
Yeah. Right behind them is Elon Musk. Then is going to come Bill Ackman. There'll be a handful of them. And Mark Andreessen is sticking his neck out.
Yep.
There
Well,
are.
and eventually it's going to be the Jamie Dimons and everybody else, because what is that expression you say, Robert? The alligator always eats you last, or it's going to, I'm going to feed the alligator so that it'll eat me last. They're still coming for you.
Yeah.
They're still coming for you.
Well, I mean, but again, that's not true.
My mic's not working.
You can't hear
We
me?
can hear you.
Okay. That's not necessarily true. If you look at what happened in Russia, there were a whole bunch of oligarchs who did very well during the Yeltsin years.
Okay.
Those that did not get along with Putin fared poorly. Those that got along with Putin are doing just fine.
Well, isn't that always the trick, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Go along to get along. And then, go ahead. Sorry, Bruce.
Yeah, no, I was saying that those who play the new game do fine.
Yep.
In fact, you need them.
That's right. That is right. All right. Oh, Robert, you are muted. We are having some technical difficulties today.
How's that, Bruce?
Bruce,
I have a question for you. How's that?
Right.
I'm back. You know, I'm not going to let you get through an episode with me muted the whole time. That would be no fun at all for anybody, because I am the free entertainment around here.
You're going to get it back to the book, or are we still saving the world?
No, we're getting back to the book. So, but let's go back to basics. So one of your arguments in the book, and I personally agree, and we've had these conversations, is wokeism is a new religion.
Yes.
Let's tackle that for a second. How is, I mean, we understand the tenets of Catholicism, or Christianity at large, Judaism, Buddhism. How is wokeism a new religion?
Well, I mean, there are a couple of things you have to remember. The first one is that it took a while to figure out the theology and the rationality and the reasoning behind all these religions. They didn't come out of the box fully baked. Right? If you think about Christianity, okay, the Nicene Creed was 350 plus years after Jesus. So you had 350 years with a lot of people going around, the Thomists and the Gnostics, and they were all Christians. It took a long time for somebody to come up with a canon. And even then, that canon wasn't a matter of consensus. That was just the official Christianity of Rome. Coptism, Coptic Christianity is older than Roman Catholicism. It's still vibrant in Egypt. So it does take a while for these things to come together. But there are, one of the things that I talk about a lot is the way that you know that this is a religion. I mean, there are a couple of ways. One is, it's a comprehensive overview of all of life, right? It's a way of reconceptualizing humanity, its role in the world, its relationship with non-humans, its relationship with the world in general, and a way of conforming our behavior to achieve a more just world. That's just like any other faith. But an important part of my argument is that it also addresses deep spiritual needs. And you can find parallels in a lot of this stuff, between a lot of the stuff that the woke talk about and things that we have in contemporary faiths. So, for example,
hang on 1 second for us, Bruce. So I love that you're going to give us some examples. You guys remember, check out the book, The American Spirit or Great Awakening. We are speaking today with Dr. Bruce Abramson. Check out the description and details. You can find a link to his book, to his website to learn more. And he is by far one of the great defenders of American freedom. And we're going to hear from some more defenders of American freedom, the American Center for Education and Knowledge. We'll be right back with you, Bruce.
America came into being based on a shared belief and a common set of values. Unlike other nations that were bound together based on common ancestry, race, or caste, we came into being based on a simple and shared set of ideals. That the power of government is based on the consent of the governed. That life, the freedom to live life on our own terms in our own way, free from government interference, and liberty, our most precious value, and the pursuit of happiness, which means we are free to pursue that which we choose with the knowledge and courage to know that nothing is guaranteed to us in this life. Those values, America was founded on these basic inalienable rights. Freedom to pray to God in our own way. Freedom to think and speak freely without fear of punishment or harm. And freedom to gather in our places of worship and in our local taverns. And freedom to defend ourselves, our families, our homes, and our neighbors as we see fit. The American Center for Education and Knowledge is dedicated to protecting American exceptionalism anywhere and everywhere it is threatened. ASIC is a 501c3 and depends on your tax-deductible donations. Please help us continue our fight.
back to get the rest of that answer.
Welcome
Thank
back
you,
to
Eric.
Of the People. We're talking with Dr. Bruce Abramson, American Spirit or Great Awakening, brand new book, The Battle for the Soul of America, Dr. Bruce, right? So wokeism is a new religion. It has all the tenets of a new religion. Who does it appeal to and why? Because I think that's part of understanding all of this. Because, you know, the new buzzword or the new MAGA word, because I think the use of MAGA by the Democrats has sort of run its course, is Christian nationalist. That's the new boogeyman that they're going to try to win the 2024 election. But the flip side of that is this whole sort of Black Lives Matter, social justice warrior, academia, anti-Semitism. I mean, tie it all together. But your argument in the book, and I've read good parts of the book, not all of it, in all fairness, is that there's a spiritual void in America, especially amongst a certain segment. Is that not correct?
Yeah. So there is in general a spiritual void in America. I think that we have relegated, all of us, by the way, even the most devout, have relegated spirituality to a niche. And, you know, not exactly an honored niche either, something you take out in private. And maybe don't talk about. But I think that it's greatest among our intellectual elite. I mean, basically the people around whom I've spent my life, the educated, affluent, credentialed professionals. There really is a gap there, and it needs to be filled. And one of the things I talk about, and I do want to get into a simple example that I think illustrates everything, I think that there are deep spiritual needs. Now, let's take an interesting one, okay? I don't think of myself as a racist. Okay? I never much cared what anybody's race was. I judge people by content of character. I've certainly never made a discriminatory decision. So I might say I'm not a racist. Now, we all know that if you say that to a woke acquaintance,
that
they'll go
means that you're a
ballistic.
racist.
Right.
Yeah. If you
Now-
say you're not a racist, you're a racist.
Right. Okay. Now let's dissect it and think about what they're saying and whether or not this really, goes in anywhere. So I go up to a woke friend and I say, I'm not racist. I've never discriminated. Okay. Suppose I went to a Christian friend and I said, I've transcended evil. I don't sin. Okay. Right.
Good luck with that.
Right.
Good luck with that.
Right. They would laugh at me and they would say, okay, maybe he's a good guy who means well, best case scenario, but he doesn't get the concept.
Right.
Evil is pervasive. It's baked into the environment. Even when you can't see it, it's there. It's a constant struggle to overcome. You can't overcome it at an individual level. It's there with us. It is part of existence. Okay. Now, there are two related reasons that might be a Christian belief. One is it might be objectively true. Two is there might be something in the human psyche and the human spirit that needs to believe that there's a pervasive cause of injustice and suffering. Okay. If you look at the way that the woke talk about racism, this is just how they've renamed that concept. There's this concept out there of a troubling, supernatural, if you will, unavoidable source of anxiety and pain and suffering and conflict and tension that permeates existence.
Yeah. Wait. So
Even
wait a
when you don't
minute.
see it.
But I thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, I thought one of the arguments were because, up is down and down is now up or sideways is straight ahead or whatever. They argue it's sort of that Alice in Wonderland, up the down staircase nonsense. But that racism was baked into the country because the country was founded on slavery. This is their argument, not mine. It was founded on slavery. Therefore, it was founded on racism. It's baked in as original sin. And everything that's flowed from that, white privilege and all that other crap that they toss around, basically dictates that even if you haven't committed a racist act by the nature of your skin color, you're a racist, or by your refusal to acknowledge you're a racist, or you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, or if you acknowledge you're a racist, of course you're a racist, right? So if because I'm, American, It's baked into the structural racism, so you're a racist there. If you owned slaves or knew someone who owned slaves or walked by someone who owned a slave, you're a racist there. If you don't admit you're racist there, and God forbid if you admit you're a racist, you're a racist. So what am I missing? Because I thought it was original sin to the woke.
But that's exactly the point.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like it replaces the garden.
That there is. It doesn't matter what you believe, and it doesn't matter who you are. Okay. At some point, if you're sentient, you notice that there's pain in the world, there's suffering in the world, there's injustice in the world. Good people lose, bad people win. Random things seem to happen. The good guys don't get ahead. You need there to be some explanation for that.
Yeah, because otherwise then there's like no reason for the suffering. All the pain is just pain. There's no overcoming or like.
So take this, right? Take this as a human need. You need to have answers to these. Well, if you're Christian, if you're Jewish, you can think of a concept of evil or suffering. Okay? In the Eastern faiths, it is simply part of samsara, part of the cycle of suffering. Right? But I mean, all traditional faiths provide answers to these questions. Okay? If you look down the traditional faiths, they all answer the same questions. They may give very different answers, but they're all there in recognition of the same questions.
Okay.
Now, what if?
So if hang on a second. So if wokeism is a new religion, right? Who's the head of the religion?
Oh, the state, right?
I don't know.
Does there have to be a head of a religion?
Oh.
You're thinking like a Catholic.
So. I think so. Well, I'm the good Jewish boy thinking like a Catholic. Is that a compliment or an insult?
No. I mean,
No, but you normally have a pastor or a priest or a rabbi, or is that what you mean, Robert? Like when you say who's the head of it?
Well, I wasn't sort of asking like who's the Pope, but I was sort of thinking like who's the head of a religion or who's the founder of the religion, right? I mean, and then we can go to who are its spiritual leaders.
Who's the founder of Hinduism?
Bodhisattva.
Buddha?
Well, first of all, that would be Buddhism.
That's Buddhism. I know.
Oh.
You're exposing my ignorance. I don't know who's that.
I am so fired. We're both fired.
Look,
exactly.
We don't know. All right. And people who study the sociology of religion will tell you that even the founders that we think were there, even those we believe in, were archetypes that were constructed after the fact.
Bro.
I got it. Okay. But I want to make this relevant to today and society. So wokeism is a religion. Wokeism is permeated everything in society. Again, I would argue it started with Obama, and we're 5 days away from transforming America.
Oh wow.
And the other side, though, are sort of the deplorables, like the rest of us who believe in traditional values. How do you combat this?
Okay.
And what does this battle of religion look like going forward?
All right.
Good question.
So here's where I think it comes from. You ask who founded wokeism. It's not who founded it per se. It's where did it come from? And the answer is that in the early 19th century, there was a new strand of Western philosophy that developed. Okay, and it was radical. It was the utopian socialist writings, of which Marx is the best known. Hegel was another, but there were a lot of them. There were a lot of utopian socialists.
Okay.
And the interesting thing about this strand of writing was this is the first development in Western philosophy that is not grounded in the Bible since St. Augustine. Okay?
Oh, right, because everything like Islam and all that stuff still has a foundation in the Old Testament.
Yeah. If you go back, what happens is, right, the second story in the Bible, right after creation, is the fall. It's the fall of man. Okay? And this is the essence of everything. What is the overarching view of humanity? God is perfect. Humanity is flawed. We as humans are inherently flawed. We cannot achieve perfection. If we follow certain rules and certain guidelines, we can elevate ourselves. We can do better. but it's a constant struggle, and it's constant striving, and it's constant work, and we can never attain perfection.
Right.
And the reason that we can never attain perfection is that we are inherently flawed. Okay? That's a view of humanity. The utopian socialists come up in the 19th century, and they take a radically different worldview. Their view is the reason there's continued human suffering is that we have baked exploitative society, we've baked exploitative institutions into our societies. Society is flawed, and it's a flawed society that is holding back humanity. So if we could perfect society, human perfection would follow.
That is so stupid.
She's not calling you stupid. She's just talking about that philosophy.
Yeah, I'm
Bruce.
sorry. I'm sorry.
And yet,
I just needed to, for our listeners, make sure that they understood that one, Ericka.
and yet it has taken over. It has taken over the world. Okay, this is. I mean, you look at it. You know, people say Marxism wasn't a religion. Marx, of course, Marx was a prophet. What did Marx say? I have found a deep truth that will tell me how to restructure society so that when the perfect future arrives, we will never leave it. And then he goes about talking about how to restructure society.
That is wild.
And why is communism an absorbing state, right? I mean, you know, Marx is, you got feudalism, eventually you get capitalism, gives way to socialism, gives way to communism. Why does communism give way to nothing? Well, because once you've landed in perfection, perfection is an absorbing state.
Oh, wow.
There's no way to make it. Once you've hit perfection, you can't make things any better.
Is that nirvana?
I was just
I'm all for
gonna
nirvana.
say.
I'm all for nirvana.
Well, nirvana, I
sounds
believe,
like-
is a state of non-existence. But
Well,
yes.
Well, isn't that after communism?
I'm telling you. Okay, you know, here's the deal. Okay, I love this. This is a perfect setup for a comment we have from a listener, you guys. So
Okay.
Ken Sullivan asked, how far from Marxism is this new religion? Seems like socialism with an attitude. So,
Good question.
you know, all these isms, right? I called Robert an istophobe earlier, right? If you like borders, you're an istophobe. There's all these isms, socialism, Marxism, like where in the evolution?
Well, but let's ask
are
that
we
question.
right
So
now?
let's ask that question again.
Yeah.
Read his question again.
How far from Marxism is this new religion? Seems like socialism with an attitude.
So I would say that wokeism and Marxism come from common roots. Okay, and the common roots are this utopian socialist view that I was describing. Now, Marx said a couple of things that are interesting. Marx said the only thing that matters is economics, materialism, class. And he wrote everything in terms of those. One of the things that Marx did was Marx said, I think spiritualism is stupid. Therefore, it should just evaporate. And that was one of the shortcomings. The one thing that the Soviets could never eradicate, they could never eradicate the church. And the reason they could never eradicate the church was they had nothing to replace it. All these spiritual dilemmas that I'm talking about, the questions that people ask, the communists, the Marxists had nothing to replace it. So you move beyond that and you get to Gramsci, who says, well, no, we have to come up with cultural Marxism, where the divisions are not simply class and economics oriented, but also culturally oriented. You get to critical theory, which generalizes it and says we could draw any lines we want as long as we can show you that there's a struggle. Okay? What wokeism does is wokeism adds a spiritual element to all of the others.
Oh yeah, and it basically like makes like believers and non-believers, like Gentiles, and oh my gosh, if you're a non-believer, okay, sorry you guys, just taking a quick break to remind you we're talking to Dr. Bruce Abramson about his new book, American Spirit or Great Awakening, The Battle to Restore or Destroy Our Nation. Okay, so it almost seems like at every turn there is a parallel to the Bible, right? I feel like we've talked about the garden.
Yes.
I feel like we've talked about the fall. We've talked about there's believers and non-believers, right? And there's atonement, right? Like if you call yourself a racist because you have a virus in your brain and your skin is white, right? Like you can atone by calling yourself these things. What else?
Or I can self-identify as like a black lesbian from San Francisco, so I can get reparations money.
There is no
So
truth.
let me. I know. Well, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. I get that. So let's bring this back to the present, though. How does Donald Trump fit into this struggle?
So Donald Trump, I mean, when they're trying to use the term Christian nationalist, again, what this goes back to is that all of the West, including the founding of the United States, was grounded in basic biblical ethics. Even the people who thought they were moving away from the Bible weren't moving that far, right? Thomas Jefferson, primary author of Declaration of Independence. What else did Jefferson do? He edited the Bible.
Took Jesus out.
Now, mind you, this would have gotten him killed as a heretic through most of Christian history, but he edited the Bible. And he went into the Gospels, and he pulled out all the miracles. And the Jefferson Bible is known as, I think, the life and teachings of Jesus of Nazareth. Okay, it's a book of ethics. And so what you get this notion, this is, by the way, is the American spirit part of the title, that America was founded as a spiritual nation. The Declaration of Independence is an intensely spiritual document. You can't read it any other way. It doesn't make any sense. Right? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. They were endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, think about it for a moment. This is, we've heard that line so many times we don't think about it. All men are created equal.
Right.
Relatively, okay, in a country that owns slaves.
Right.
In a world that's always owned slaves. In a country that says only landowners can vote. Coming from a culture where you had kings and nobles.
That's right.
Okay, not that far removed from the feudal system. What in the world?
The only people who believe that all people are created equal, regardless of ability or whatever. I mean, isn't that a Judeo-Christian value? Where else does that come from?
Well, we say that the Bible has the idea that people are born of equal dignity.
Right.
It's not clear that Eastern faiths deny that. But my point is not that equality was rare. My point is that the idea that all men are created equal in 1776 may be many things. It may be true. It may be bold. It may be strong. What it is not is self-evident. Nobody has ever run a country or a society in all of history along these lines. Most people behave as if it's not true. Jefferson himself behaves as if it's not true. Okay? It is many things. It is not self-evident.
Huh.
In fact, most of the people in the world today doubt it.
So let me jump in here. So basically, if I'm hearing this, so really America was founded, notwithstanding the 14th Amendment about the Establishment Clause, but America was founded with a religion. It was just a civic religion.
That's exactly
right?
my point. And you can call it a civic religion, but it really was. See, the term that I use in the book is I call it a spiritual platform. And that's because I'm a techie at heart. Okay? There is part of the brilliance of the computer revolution was that you develop a piece of software and then you expose what are known as APIs, application programming interfaces, and somebody builds an application on top of it, right? So Microsoft Word is an application sitting on top of Microsoft Windows, and then you write a document in Microsoft Word. And that's how these things go. My argument is that what Jefferson did was he defined a spiritual platform. He basically said, this is what theism was, right? Here's lowest common denominator, basic ethics, and basic belief in a creator and natural law and natural rights. And now I'm exposing the APIs that you can finish in any way you want. And, you can finish it with devout Christianity, you can finish it and be Jewish, you can finish it and be Hindu or Muslim or Buddhist or anything else, as long as you figure out how to interface with the basic platform. And there are things that don't interface with the basic platform. You come here from a religion that practices human sacrifice. Sorry, you can't do that in America. Hinduism has done a marvelous job of transplanting itself on top of a biblical platform, but they had to leave the caste system behind.
Yep.
So let's bring this back. You still respectfully have not answered what I'm curious to know, which is the figure of Donald Trump in all of this.
Yeah.
Right. How, filter that for me so we have this battle between this new religion of wokeism versus, let's call it a civic religion, and these are my words, not yours, a civic religion upon which the country was founded, and there is a struggle for preeminence, right? Who's going to win out? The wokeism, Black Lives Matter versus the fundamental traditional values of this civic religion. Help me understand the perhaps tragic figure of Donald Trump in all of this.
Trump is a guy who grew up under the old system and loved it. And he sees that it's under attack. And a lot of the attacks that he sees just feel wrong. Right? And he is out there defending the old-time religion. Okay? And the peccadillos that people, want to throw on him, don't really matter. The fact that maybe he can be a bit blunt in the way he speaks, I mean, that's not the point. The point is that, he's out here saying you're undermining the fundamental ethical basis on which the country was founded. And people say, well, yeah, but you don't talk too pretty.
So he's a threat. So he's a threat to the new religion is basically what you're telling me.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's just like, back in the day when the kings and queens would have people, their dissidents murdered or defectors or whatever. You get murdered, you get killed. Well, now we can't just murder people who don't follow our religion, but we can murder their character.
Talk to Vladimir Putin and Navalny.
Well, no. Wait a minute.
Okay, in polite society, okay?
Again, we actually do. Okay, and this is, you go through, this is all stuff I go through in a book, but you can find all the parallels. Right? Let's take a look at something like an anti-misinformation campaign. What's the rationale? Okay, what's the rationale?
To protect people or something or other.
Right. There are a lot of people out there who don't have the background, who don't have the knowledge, don't have the rationale. They might hear these disturbing thoughts and be led astray. Okay, that is the rationale behind every anti-blasphemy law ever passed. Right? The weak-minded might hear blasphemous thoughts and be led astray from the true faith. Okay,
and so
that's it.
Therefore, we must keep them from hearing such things.
That's exactly right. Now,
and so we have to cancel them essentially.
So we have to protect them from themselves.
That's exactly. But now go to cancellation. So what's the penalty? Cancellation. What does cancellation say? We're not going to kill you.
We're going to cast you out. We'll destroy your career. We're going to cancel you through cancel culture. We're going to make sure you're broke. We're going to make sure you can't feed your family. Right? And we're going to cancel your ass.
And the traditional name for that punishment was?
I don't know.
Excommunication.
So so you're cast out of the social media.
What do you think excommunication was?
Being cast out.
Oh my God!
You were cast out of society,
or banished.
Yeah.
Go operate in the underground. You can no longer
you're not allowed
to.
You're not allowed to participate in the economy. You aren't
talking
welcome.
to you is a crime. Doing business with you is a crime. Helping you is a crime.
Bruce, we got a few minutes left. I want some hard answers here.
Ooh.
So who wins the battle? How long is this battle? And what do we do other than buy your book, folks, which will help you understand the battle,
obviously,
which they all should do, right? Spiritual crisis or greater awakening, right? How do you fight this battle?
So first of all, the battle is long, and I don't know who wins. But things that we can do now. So one of the reasons that I wrote this book was I'm trying to really lay the intellectual groundwork to get broader recognition for the idea that wokeism really is a religion, because then we can start to bring cases in court on the Establishment Clause. And I believe that what's happening is these people have come up with a new religion. They've injected it into all of our public institutions and all of our schools, and they are turning it into the established religion in the United States.
Shut up.
Okay, so I am trying to lay the intellectual groundwork so people recognize this, so we can start bringing these cases.
That is amazing.
And put them on equal ground. Another thing that we have to do, and I reach out specifically to faith leaders, is faith leaders have to take a look at some of the stuff that I'm talking about. And they have to start asking some of the questions that I address, which is, why have the woke, with their wacky new religion, been so successful at reaching the people that our traditional faiths can't? Okay? And part of the reason, by the way, is that the woke aren't encumbered with ancient language. You know, every existing traditional faith grew up in the pre-modern world. Okay? The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Quick fact about the guy who wrote that. He was a shepherd. Okay? He was talking to shepherds. King David wrote it. Where do we first meet King David in the Bible? God sent Samuel to find the next king among the sons of Jesse. Samuel meets one after another. They're all impressive. He says he'd make a great king. No. Hasn't met the youngest one. He says, well, where is the youngest one? The answer, he is with the sheep. Okay? This is the guy who writes, the Lord is my shepherd. He tells this message to shepherds. It hits them at a visceral level. You go into a room, you go into a lecture hall in New York, in Washington, in Hollywood, in Silicon Valley, there ain't a lot of shepherds. Okay? It is completely impersonal. You say the Lord is my shepherd, you're talking to people who hear it as poetry and religion. It's got nothing to do with their lives.
Interesting.
You find a way to talk to them. You say, trust the science. That they can relate to.
So,
Interesting. Okay.
Bruce, we are running out of time, and there's so much more to talk to you about. But tell me, where do they get the book? The name of the book again? Ericka, let's put that up for everybody, for our listeners. Where can they find the book, and where can they contact you? Okay. The name of the book is American Spirit, A Great Awakening. You can find it anywhere books are sold, including Amazon. Brought out by Academica Press. If you want to go straight through the press website, that's a great way to go. We went back and forth as to whether it should be an or a versus, because these really are the two solutions we're looking at. You can find me at brucedabramson.com. I have yet to update the website for my last book, but you can send me email there. Okay. Fantastic. We would love to have you back. This is a not only fascinating discussion, but such an important one to understand the real high-level battle, understand the two sides in this war in America, and it gives a structure and it gives sort of a fabric to it all, to understand that one side is these traditional American values, and the other side is really, which is founded on the civic religion of both the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, versus this new religion of wokeism. Folks, we've been talking with Dr. Bruce Abramson and his new book, American Spirit or Great Awakening. Thank you for joining us. Are we doing after hours here, Lady Ericka? Yeah, let's do it. And if Bruce, if you can join us, ladies and gentlemen, this is the time of our show where we cut ties with the non-free speech platforms, and we talk a little bit longer with our guests, and we can say not whatever we want to. No, we can't say whatever we want. We still have to be reasonable, because apparently, how disappointing. The internet is forever, and whatever. So Benjamin, are you want me to give us a segue with the outro music? All right, y'all, come back and see us again next week. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you are listening on Rumble or Twitter, you're going to get to hear a little bit more of the show. So if you're on one of the other platforms, navigate over to Rumble, navigate over to X or Twitter or whatever the heck it is anymore, and find Of the People with Robert Chernin. Yes. All right. Of the People with Robert Chernin, After Hours. After Hours. Wait. Oh, I don't have the mic set up anymore. Dang it. Okay, hold on, y'all.